Hey guys, it's Lynk Plays Games. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to our life. So, we just met Silo, adorable boy in the middle here. Let me see, mouse, hello. And then we got grumpy sad Cove, who's precious. And we just found Lizzie. When you found her, she was swinging on the jungle gym, swinging back and forth. Hey Lizzie. Her face lit up when she saw you, her big brown eyes going wide. Link, Silo. Hi. She dropped to the ground and landed with a soft thud in the sand. In a split second, Silo had abandoned you two and scrambled over to stand by her. You were used to being left out when it was just the three of you, but now Cove was here. You wondered if he would leave too. Who's that? It's Cove. He's new. I remember. Hi, Cove. Welcome to my park. No one ever comes to play here, so this is where we get together. She gestured widely with her arms as if to present the area to the newcomer. Without interrupting Lizzie's speech, Cove whispered in your ear quiet enough that the others wouldn't overhear. I thought kids couldn't own places like parks or hills. Look at that smug smile. You couldn't help but laugh a tiny bit. While Lizzie continued talking, you took the chance to kick off your shoes and wiggle your toes through the warm sand. Nice, huh? In this neighborhood, I'm the one who comes up with the ideas. You are? Yeah, I am. Who else could handle the job? Lizzie's the oldest. By a lot. Mom said you're Link's age.
Yeah.
Thought so. I'm still the only one in this group with double digits. What about other kids? Other kids? There aren't any. We're the only kids here, and Silo is just visiting from another place. Not even tourists really bring their kids here. This is the land of ancients. Be careful that the oldies don't try to steal your youth.
Oh.
For a second, it looked like he might cry again. But something in his eyes shifted, and he looked back at Lizzie. What kind of old people, like moms and dads or grandparents? Grandparents who don't have kids. They hate kids. Why, we haven't done anything. Only some of them don't like kids. Stop saying stuff like that. You're gonna upset them. Yeah, they're really bad. Only some of them. You interjected quickly, hoping Lizzie wouldn't take things too far. Cove sniffled, his forehead creasing with worry. Lizzie was staring Cove down, but Cove wasn't even looking at her anymore. He didn't seem to care that she was there. He went on into his own head. Silo was the next to speak, completely unaware of the situation. I met Lizzie and Lynk in school. You'll see a ton of kids there once the summer's over. I don't want to go to a new school. I don't want summer to end. Silo looked down at the dirt. He hasn't had much luck striking up conversations with Cove. I like summer vacation a lot too. All the building tension in the air suddenly vanished when Lizzie laughed. At Silo's discomfort and how weird she thought Cove was, at something else entirely you didn't really know. But she laughed, face scrunching up.
Okay.
Welcome to Sunset Bird Cove. Take a seat, put up your feet, and get used to it. You offered him a small smile at that. At least looked to reassure him some. For the rest of the summer, Cove was always there. You saw him more often than Silo, and on some days when she was in a bad mood or busy, you even saw him more than Lizzie. He became a staple of your everyday life, the way the sun and lunch and the beach were. During your first summer together, you really liked Cove. He was a fun person to play with, and he seemed to like playing with you too. Of course, that was only the start of things. Okay, so we have different things we could click on and do. So we are going to go in order. I learned the hard way that you didn't have to choose one at a time. And you could choose to end the summer quickly, but we will go through all these. I'm debating on buying the DLC, but I feel like that would make this series too long, but let's try to get through shopping. Come back before it gets dark, alright, sport? The familiar voice drifted across the street, and you drew your attention away from the snail you'd been watching inch slowly across the pavement. Cove waited in front of his dad, pushing his green hair back off his face from where the breeze was blowing it over his glasses. He looked to be paying only a mild amount of attention as he was being handed a few slips of green paper. It reminded you of when you first met Mr. Holden, although he's probably not paying Cove to be friends with himself. Cove's dad seemed to feel your gaze somehow, or maybe you made a noise, because a second later his eyes were on you. He waved you over with a smile. He looked happy to see you, but you still felt a little weird for getting caught. You've got to learn how to be more sneaky. You brushed your hands together to free them of sand, then jogged over to join the two, smiling at Cove first, and then his dad. Lynk, hi.
How's it going?
Good to see you again. What excitement are you up to today, Lynk? Taking a walk. I found a pretty cool snail across the road. There's lots of snails around here. Mr. Holden grinned at you kindly. After you finished answering the question, Mr. Holden's attention returned to Cove, who was preoccupied with folding the bills he had into tiny rectangles. Sounds fun. You know, Cove was about to hit the stores by the beach. Why don't you go with him? You gave a ready nod, turning to squint at the direction of the stores like you could see the goods they had to offer all the way from where you stood. Oh, is that okay?
Yeah.
I don't mind. Oh. Great. I'm sure you guys will have loads of fun. Mr. Holden reached into his pocket, pulled out a leather wallet filled with money. You found it odd since your mom's only ever seemed to have cards in theirs. Here. He leaned in to pass a crisp 10 to Cove, giving him a wink and a whisper. Get something for your friend, too. Sure.
Good kid.
Aw, that's my boy. Cove's dad ruffled his son's hair as he was straightening it back up, the bill in his hand still held towards the green-haired boy. Take care. Cove accepted the bill after a second, slipped it into his pocket, then with one last nod to his dad, he turned and started walking. You followed after him, intrigued by the possibilities of this outing might bring. Cove strayed towards the gentle tide creeping up the sand. You fell into place beside him. It was a nice day. The sun was shining, and there weren't many clouds in the sky, though the wind coming off the ocean kept it from being too hot. You took in a deep breath, enjoying the scent of the salted ocean air. When you looked at Cove, he was dragging his feet through the sand a little, and you slowed down to wait for him. His eyes searched the ground intently. Are you looking for shells? Cove startled at a little at the sound of your voice and mumbled, sort of. If you see any, you could let me know. You could manage that. You dropped your view to the sand, walking carefully so you didn't step on any. You were good at finding shells. You had a lot of them at home, and always found new ones whenever you visited the beach. The comforting sound of the waves filled the silence with a pleasant white noise. You played a little game with yourself as you walked along, getting as close to the water as possible without getting wet. It resulted in you having to run up the sand quickly when a wave rushed in more than a few times. Although Cove threw a few glances your way, he didn't say a word. What do you usually do on the beach? Lots of things, like bodyboarding and volleyball and surfing and everything and stuff. The idea of standing on a big board while the waves propelled you towards the shore was mystifying. I'm not allowed to surf. It looks hard. Now once you get the hang of it, I could show you sometime. But I'm also not allowed to surf right now because I have this. He lifted one arm, showing off the glaring pink cast wrapped around his wrist. Yeah, that's sad for him. Cove still smiled, though. You thought his nonchalant attitude towards the injury was pretty brave. I also like collecting stuff that's on the shore. Shells, sand dollars. I found a shark tooth once. You did? Cove stretched out his forefinger and thumb. It was this long. That was somehow both scary and delightful. No way. I mean it, I still have it under my bed. You'd have to remember to ask him to show it to you sometime. What about you? What do you do out here? I don't come to the beach a lot. I like swimming. I like looking at fish. I like building sandcastles, nothing. So for me personally, I'm not a big beach goer. Like, I do go to the lake sometimes with friends, and I love to swim, but I don't like swimming where there are fish, because I don't want it. I got nibbled on by a fish before, and it freaked me out. I like swimming in pools. Very much. I do like to build sandcastles, so we'll go with that. But, I technically should not go to the lake or the beach, because I get burnt easily. For those who don't remember, during the summer when I got, like, burnt to a crisp, I don't know if I mentioned that on YouTube before, but I did. I was out there for like 4 hours, 5 hours maybe. I kept putting on sunscreen, but it wasn't enough, and I still have a tan on my back with like an X on the back from where my straps were. But anyways, last summer, Lizzie and I built one that was as tall as me, and sometimes they have sand castle building competitions down by the boardwalk. Cool, I bet you could win. You smiled at Cove. Maybe the two of you would build one together one day. Oh, cute. Once you reached the shopping area, the noise level grew exponentially. Speaking of noise level, let's make sure I'm still doing pretty decent. Okay, I think I'm good. I don't know. Once you reach the shopping area, then... Okay, I read that. Sorry. I'm doing so great tonight. No longer just waves and footsteps, but the chatter of people enjoying... Oh, well, dang it. You sniffed the air as you walked beside Cove. You could still smell the ocean, but there were other scents now, too. Pizza, pretzels, hot donuts. Oh, pretzels sound so good right now. Especially, like... I know people dip them in cheese, but like Subway's garlic aioli sauce or like a nice honey barbecue sauce. Oh, so good. Sometimes ranch. If you know, you know. It's good. Especially like the really like the hot doughy pretzels. I'm not talking about like the tough crunchy pretzels. It was nice. The energy surrounding the area seemed to fill you. There was a bounce in your step and you began looking at the familiar sights. There were so many things to do you didn't know where to begin. You looked at Cove, hoping he was just as excited as you were. Cove was glancing from one side of the street to the other with a look in his aquamarine eyes that you couldn't quite work out. What's that? Cove pointed to a large crowd of people gathered near a few tables with large, colorful umbrellas blooming from their middles. You couldn't see past the adults who were blocking the way, but you knew there was something worth seeing. Without another word, the two of you hurried over to see what all the commotion was about. Feast your eyes on the amazing Alexander. In the center of the crowd was a man with a tall hat, a funny green coat that had 3 long tails. There was a little table next to him with a cloth hanging over it that read "The Amazing Alexander" in glittery golden script. Why tell people his name if it's already on a sign? Cove hummed with understanding, then turned to walk away just as the Amazing Alexander began shuffling a deck of cards. Maybe we could stay and watch. Cove glanced back at the man, then briefly lifted his arm up off his side before returning him back to place. You grinned, waving for him to follow you as you raced back to the stand in the crowd. With that it began. The magic man pulled out one card out of the deck, showing it off to curious onlookers. It was a 4 of diamonds. Watch closely. You did, squeezing through a few of the adult onlookers to get a better view. Suddenly the man snapped his fingers and the card just disappeared. Whoa. The Amazing Alexander, who had earned his title, turned his head and looked directly at you. He reached out with a kind smile. What's this behind your ear? Nothing? It was true, you didn't keep anything there. He smelled like popcorn and candy when he stepped closer, and you wrinkled your nose in confusion as you watched him. You felt a tug, and then he pulled the 4 of diamonds out from behind your ear. What? You didn't know that it... You knew that it couldn't really have come from your ear, but you still didn't get how he had done it. There was a light applause from the crowd, and the man gave a deep bow. This is for you. The man plucked a pair of balloons from a clump of them tied down to his table. They were both in the shape of a dolphin instead of being normal circles. And one for your friend too. Thank you for being my assistant. Wow. You were really grateful that he chose you. After he went to someone else in the crowd. Pick a card, any card. My uncle does that every time he visits, not with the balloons, the stuff with the cards. Cove spoke plainly while reaching over to take the dolphin that had been designated for him. At least you had a fun time. You saw a magic trick and you got a great balloon. That was more than enough to make it a worthwhile event. You thought that if you could find a card to practice with, maybe you could make it disappear too. The crowd started to clear some, and you noticed to the side there was a whole rack of brightly colored kaleidoscopes on display. Okay, kaleidoscope, Rubik's Cube, Magic 8 Ball, pass the toys. You briefly looked over to the rack of toys thinking that they could be interesting to look at, but you didn't really feel in the mood at the moment. Cove picked up one of the kaleidoscopes and looked through it, twisting the tube at the end. After a second, he set it back on the rack, moving to the other side of the stall. He went under the awning, careful of his own floating dolphin, and you joined him. Are you having fun? He nodded, and you smiled back at him, happy to hear it. When Cove moved towards some stalls nearby, you followed beside him. Okay, how cute! I love the dolphin, but I also like the shark. While Cove looked at the sand pails, you were drawn to a table with colorful keychains laid out on it. They were sewn in the shape of sea creatures, and there was a plaque that read "Handmade" standing proudly in front. There were lots of different types. You saw a dolphin, shark, a crab, and a turtle. You picked up the shark. Your hand stopped on the shark, a devious smirk filled with sharp teeth on its face. You weren't supposed to go near sharks in real life, but there was something about this shark that you liked. The fabric on its back was soft when you picked at it. You were instantly enamored. Checking the price, though, your heart fell, $6. You didn't know much about money, but you thought it was a lot to spend on one thing. You rarely had more than a $5 bill to your name. Is that what you want? Huh? Oh. It's $6. I didn't bring any money.
Alright.
It's fine. You don't have to. Cove didn't mind that. He took the keychain from your hands, and that was that. He was holding a small yellow bucket for himself too. I was always gonna get you something. I already got the money for it. You smiled, pleased to have things work out. It was nice of Cove's dad to let Cove buy something for you too. You had to remember to thank him the next time you saw him. Aw, Cove is precious. After Cove paid, the two of you stepped out towards the store side by side, your balloon dolphins knocking together and spiraling around in the air. You watched Cove hold up his new pail to his face, examining it thoroughly. Hey, Cove. Yeah? I really like this keychain. Thank you. It is nice. Cove looked further down the street where different food carts were lined up. He rested his non-cast arm over his stomach. Just as he did, yours let out a slight growl. You hadn't eaten since breakfast, and after all this wandering around, you were definitely ready for some lunch. Let's get some food. Yeah. You two wandered around for a short while looking at all the delicacies that were available. Everything looked delicious, and the different smells of both sweet and salty wafted over to you. Your stomach growled even louder. Thinking about food is making my stomach growl. After passing up hot dogs, snow cones, ice cream, and pizza, you both agreed on pretzels. See, I was talking about pretzels. That sounds so good. Cove got something sweet and cinnamony. I struggle. And you got a plain one, got one with cheese. I don't think about cheese. One with sprinkles, no. One with chocolate, no. I'm gonna go with the plain one. Like I said, either like a honey barbecue, ranch, or garlic aioli sauce to dip it in. The best. You licked your lips hungrily as the vendor handed your pretzel over, ready to take a big bite. Oh, it had little sprinklings of salt on it, and that's just how you liked it. Oh, making me hungry. Man. The thought of the little cup of icing Cove got with his looked delicious. You found an empty table close enough to the beach that the grit of the sand made terrible noises when you dragged the chairs out to sit. These balloons are going to make it hard to eat. Cove placed his bucket on the table. He stared at his still balled up hand that was wrapped around the string. You opened your mouth to agree, but an idea hit you, I know. Carefully placing your pretzel somewhere it wouldn't get sandy, you tugged the balloon dolphin out of Cove's hand, tied it in a delicate bow around his wrist. Cove bounced his arm up and down in place, testing the stability of the knot. After watching his balloon jostle around but remain attached, he smiled satisfied. Can you do it for me? He repeated the ritual. Cove struggled somewhat with the cast, restricting his fingers on one hand, and a string already tangled around the other.
Okay.
Got it. The two of you spent a moment admiring your handiwork, both hands now free to allow easy munching on your pretzels. You bit into the doughy treat, savoring the taste on your tongue with a smile. You looked out over the ocean. God, why does this have to make me so hungry? Man, I could use a good snack right about now. After a time, you finished your pretzel. You were done before Cove. It was boring not to have anything to do. You held the dolphin in your hands, manipulating it to make it look like it was jumping through the air. If you turned to face towards the beach, it almost looked like it was swimming in the waves like a real dolphin. A laugh came from your side. When you glanced back at Cove, he had left the remaining parts of his pretzel on the wrapper, and he was gripping his dolphin too. Mine's name is Merryweather, and he's the Prince of Dolphins. He wears a crown made of seaweed, and all of his friends are merfolk. Every now and then he'll make friends with a kid and let them ride on his back. You sighed, wishing you could meet a real dolphin like Merryweather. What's yours? Cove considered this question, placing the balloon against the table and resting his free arm across it in contemplation. With a loud pop, the dolphin exploded into ribbons. Oh no. For a second, all Cove did was gape in shock like you. Then his cheeks puffed up, squinting his eyes, and you saw tears start to glisten. Oh no, don't cry. Lynk, offer to give him my balloon. You looked at Cove and then up to your balloon, bobbing gently in the air above you. You could have mine. That was better than letting him cry more. Cove sniffled, glancing up at the balloon and then back at you. No, it's yours, and I don't want to take it from you. It's okay, really. Cove shook his head. Even though it wasn't your fault, you felt bad. Still, the offer seemed to lift Cove's spirits, and that was good. The passing of Cove's balloon was the last major event of your adventure. In the end, the two of you headed back late that afternoon. You separated on the beach, and while Cove went straight home with his brand new sand pail in hand, you decided to sit for a while. You watched the waves and the sunset, fiddling with your new keychain. Another summer day was drawing to a close. It had been a good one, except for the sad final note. Okay, so that is going to be all for this episode. Let me save this. Look at that. We're getting so far in this already. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.